For the PTE Core exam, when you do the reading section, you're actually being tested more on your exam test taking skills rather than your reading abilities. But stay tuned to the end of the video so that I can give you some strategies and advice on how to conquer the reading section. Almost all of our students say that this is the hardest area. Why? Well, because you may very well know how to read and write, but the exam doesn't just test you on can you understand this information. Largely, it's also about your speed. Now, the first piece of advice that I can share is that your reading skills are not just being tested in the reading section. They also come up in the speaking and writing, as well as the listening section. So throughout the entire exam, you're being calculated and scored on your reading skill. And today we're going to look on which areas you should focus the most on and which areas you can just skip past. Now, I'm Scott from HZad Education. If you are taking the exam soon or need to boost your skills, please go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. It just allows you to get daily content with exam material and learning the structure of the exam. Now, just to give you some reference, if you are looking to get a high CLB, like a 7, 8, or 9, your reading score is going to look like this. Of course, it does depend on your speaking, your listening, and your writing skills as well, but generally, you're going to look for a 65 or higher, and that'll equal out to a CLB 7, which will also be applicable for immigration or the express entry, for example, if you're applying to Canadian immigration. But like I said, getting the highest score in the reading section doesn't just depend on your reading skills. This is why so many students lose marks. What it really depends on is your test taking skills. So let's practice some of these strategies. First of all, we need to know what are the highest scored sections. For reading, we're looking at reading and writing fill in the blanks. We get huge points here. This accounts for 5 to 6 points, which makes up the bulk of all of your reading points. The next one is also fill in the blanks, 4 to 5 points here. So this is another example of fill in the blanks where you're going to have to read a passage. And we'll get into that in a minute. I will also show you some examples. Lastly, moderate weight, but still important, is reorder the paragraph. That's where you drag and drop. You still get a lot of marks here, so it's one of the top 3 priorities. Now, outside of the actual reading section, you will still get points from things like speaking, read aloud, writing, summarize a written text, listening, highlight correct summary, and also listening, highlight incorrect words. In those sections, you still need to have very good reading comprehension skills so that you can read it or you can summarize it or highlight the incorrect words. Those all account to your reading skill. Make sure that you're comfortable with those. And actually, we have videos for all of them. We have videos for summarize a written text. We have videos for read aloud. So just go to our channel and we have a full video dedicated to those sections that require reading. Okay, but what areas do not add a lot of value to your reading score? Both of the multiple choice questions. So we have multiple choice, multiple answer, and multiple choice, single answer. For both of these, you're only getting 1 to 2 marks, and so it really doesn't justify wasting time on it and then getting 1 mark. Because here is the strategy. Prioritize high scored questions. So we want to give ourselves more time for doing the high value questions so that you can get those 5 marks. If you can't get the multiple choice questions in 1 minute, then move on. Press next. Go to the next one. You're not going to lose points, you just won't gain that 1 mark. But can we really justify 1 mark for 3 or 4 minutes of wasted time, therefore not allowing us to get 3 or 4 marks on the other questions? No. We've had lots of students go through the test in this strategy, and we found that by prioritizing the fill in the blanks and the reordering the paragraph, they were getting higher scores in the reading section. But that doesn't mean you don't attempt the multiple choice, just don't give yourself a lot of time. 1 minute for multiple choice, multiple answer, 1 minute for multiple choice, single answer. If you can't get it in that time, select an answer and move on. Remember, select an answer and move on. Just don't leave it blank because there's still a chance you can get that right. Now, just so you know, what do these sections look like? Well, multiple choice, multiple answer has a passage up to 300 words. It looks like this. And then you select multiple answers, just like the title. These questions are not about inference, they're about comprehension. So if you skim read the text, you can probably still find the answer very quickly in that 1 minute. So they're looking for names, dates, real facts that are presented in the text. Likewise, multiple choice, single answer, you'll get a shorter paragraph, but you only have one text or one answer to choose from. Generally, these questions are an overview question. For example, it might say, what is this text about? This is why we strategize by only giving ourselves 1 minute for these questions, because you don't need to read the passage. You only need to skim read. So we're just quickly going through, what is this paragraph about? This paragraph is about, boom. Okay, one answer. So 1 minute for these questions. All right, we have an idea on the questions that we can skip past or give very little attention to. 1 minute only. Now, let's take a look at the strategies that will actually help you to boost your mark for the high-valued questions, where you get 4 to 5 marks for each. Strategy number 1, and we've talked about this a bit, is scanning the text for information. When you scan the text, your eyes are just moving like rapid fire and you're looking left to right for key pieces of information. Focus on nouns, numbers, and capitalized words because they often contain the answer. Ignore any type of filler word like and, the, on, to, because these don't add any context. And look for repeating words or repeated synonyms. So words that have similar meanings within the passage. This will really help you to identify what is the question asking and where can I find that in the text. So let's take a look at an example of reorder the paragraph where I'm scanning very quickly and then I'm dragging them into the correct order, or hopefully the correct order. Okay, so you can see in this example here, I'm looking for introduction sentences, one that contains the main subject, like many humans endeavors have benefited the language, so I thought that would be the beginning. And then I'm looking for something that can go into a bit more detail. So we start with our topic sentence, and then we have details. And I can pretty much see what is the conclusion, or at least I hope I can see what is the conclusion sentence. But again, I'm doing this quite quickly. I go to check my score and okay, good, I got them all correct. Started with the topic sentence, more detail, and then there's a but, so I know it changes, and then a conclusion sentence. Okay, let's try one more so that you can practice at home. This one I found a little bit harder for dragging and dropping the correct order. Let's try. Okay, so again, I wasn't quite sure who the main subject was. First, was it the expedition? Was it Hudson River? And then I discovered it was Hudson, a person, April 1610. So this is going back to like Canadian, the beginnings of Canada. All right, and then I have more details. So they go from Hudson, then his crew. And then I was a little bit unsure here if it was like the conclusion sentence or if they were adding more detail. And I did it a little bit too quick. So my last two answers were not right. My conclusion should have been the exploration then reached another of his namesakes. One more drag and drop example because I really want you to focus here on looking for key pieces of information, names, dates, and capitals, as well as omitting any type of unnecessary words like prepositions or articles. So try this one. Okay, before I show you the answer, can you see where I went wrong? Look at my topic sentence. Do we normally start an essay or a paragraph with so? So, blah, blah, blah. No. So is used as a transitional word, so we typically don't start our paragraph with so. It means also, so, also. So reorder this at home. How would you do it differently? And then we'll see the answers. Okay, so those are the answers. Good. We understand skimming the text. This is where you're working very quickly to scan for names, dates, information, capital words, and then we can drag and organize the paragraph correctly. Strategy number 2 is going to help us a lot with fill in the blanks. The main thing we're looking for here is speed, but in addition to that, we're looking for grammar. Grammar is going to help you to select the correct word. Some of the questions, you'll notice that there is an article like a or an before. This gives you a very clear hint of what the next word is going to follow with. For example, if we have an, it'll follow with a word that has a vowel sound, like an elephant or an apple, but the words will be more advanced than that. So any type of vowel sound. Sometimes prepositions can also give you a big hint. The other thing that you should be focusing on for the fill in the blanks is to look ahead. You can scan the text very quickly, read the next sentence, because often that will give you clues on what your answer should be. So if you select an answer, read on, and then there's like but or however, then we know that it's going from a positive statement to a negative statement or vice versa, because the transitional word however changes the sentence positive to negative. So always read ahead before you select your dropdown. So let's take a look at a few more examples from the PTE Core exam, fill in the blanks. As you can see here, the text is a little bit short, and in the exam it's longer, it's up to 300 words, but this is just an example. So we have assumptions, experiments. After these have been done, he got his evidence. Okay, so I'm just looking for content words. Here I had to select the word data because it's the only one that fit with both plural and singular. The next one I chose view, to have a view of the world around us, because that's a common phrase in English. Let's do one more. As I'm doing the fill in the blanks, make sure to scan very quickly and look for any clues with grammar. So any verb tenses or articles that come before the blank. We'll practice this one. Now, the final strategy I want to share with you that'll help you become a better test taker for the PTE Core exam is that it's not about getting every answer correct. It's about getting the most correct answers in the amount of time. Think of that. You don't have to get every correct answer. You need to get the most correct answers in the given amount of time. That is why we're not wasting time on things like multiple choice, multiple answer, or single answer. You're going to give that a very quick shot, select an answer, and move on. But you're only given 30 minutes and you have 5 sections of reading to go through. So the examiners have built this test very well understanding that you likely won't have time to answer all the questions. So what you want to prioritize first is the high valued questions. Fill in the blanks, there's 2 of them. Fill in the blanks in the reading, writing, and then fill in the blanks at the end, as well as drag and reorder the paragraph. The other sections you can just whiz past. Now, if you do get stuck on a question, try not to focus on it too long. Select an answer and move on. That can be said for all areas in the exam. You're getting much closer to being prepared to take the exam. Comment down below to tell us what is the hardest section you find in the exam and what are you preparing for the most. We're happy to make videos that will really benefit you. Although the reading section is the hardest, it is doable and many of our students get high scores. If you're looking for a one-on-one tutor that can practice with you daily or weekly to boost your score and get the right CLB you need for Canadian immigration or for education purposes, then get in contact with us at HZad Education. We'll be happy to put you in touch with our tutors. I'm Scott from HZad Education. Thanks for following, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.